Well, good. Good. Let's
Ready to go? We want to welcome Jason Whitney, CEO of 3Believe. He's going to come tonight and tell us lots of new and exciting news. So, Jason, it's all yours.
All right, let me hit the recordings. Again, what we do here and what 3Believe is all about is addressing those issues of metabolic syndrome. Like I said, the CDC says that it is growing at such a rate that it's out of control. It's not just a national problem of the United States. It also is affecting other countries. The countries that are becoming most successful, those that are having the fastest growing economies, are also those that are growing in the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. Type 2 diabetes, for example, the single fastest growing nation in the world in type 2 diabetes is the country of India. And it's because as they are becoming more successful, they are adopting a westernized diet. As Western foods and our restaurants like fast foods are going over there, as the workers are getting more busy and they're following a westernized workforce, they are eating and acting and doing what Americans do, and then they live the life that Americans live, which is obesity. In America, it's 80 or 79%. Heart disease. Things that fall into that is high blood pressure. 34% of the nation has high blood pressure. 31% have high cholesterol. And now there's 15% of our population is diabetic. Now they actually have 12% that are diagnosed, but they're saying that between 3 and 4 more percentage points are walking around as diabetics and they don't even know it. Elevated glucose levels and insulin resistance are causing to that problem. And so these other countries are becoming more like Americans. And that's not a good American tradition to pass on to our neighbors. The second fastest growing country for diabetes is our neighbors to the south, Mexico. Same situation. It's not a good thing for us to pass on. And so what our program's about is helping people to understand that the way that we got these symptoms, it was not handed down by our forefathers, our family. It was not given to us by bad luck. It was given to us by our mouths. Well, and probably our hands too. So as we feed ourselves, we literally ate our way into the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. Now you might chuckle and say, well, of course, Jason, I know that I ate my way into being overweight. You know, it's really not that you ate more than you should have ate. It was the ratio of the macronutrients that you ate that was more out of a line. And what in the world does that mean? A macronutrient is nothing more than a place where you're getting your calories from. And our program is not about counting calories. Oh, that can be laborious, and you can forget what you ate that day if you didn't write it down. And a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, right? We talked about that last week, and that is not the case. It really does matter. Our bodies respond differently to where that calorie is coming from, whether it's a complex carb or a simple carb, whether it's a protein, whether it's a fat, whether it's an omega fat or a regular saturated fat. These things make a difference in our body. So calorie is not a calorie and is not, I'll repeat, a calorie. So our macro balancing of our fats, our proteins, and our carbs is really the more important thing than us eating too much food. We did not get fat because we ate too much. It was that we ate the ratio of too many carbohydrates, and it then caused a cascading event of chemicals, literally a body chemistry in our body that made our bodies react differently to that cocktail of food that we ate. In fact, we're going to go over one of the things that I've made reference to, but go in more in detail of how we got heart disease and how we can overcome it, and how this diet can help us overcome it. How a ketogenic approach putting our bodies into ketosis actually can save us, prevent us, and rid us of this terrible malady called heart disease. And so that's what we're about. So if you love those that are around you, for heaven's sakes, even if you don't like them, still help them out with learning about how they can rid themselves of the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. All right? So that's what we've been doing for the better part of 9 years in the medical world, helping doctors and clinics and hospitals take a holistic approach. And I'm glad, I applaud the efforts of our medical establishment of relying less on surgery, relying less on pharmaceutical drugs, and leaning now more than ever to holistic healing. And that's what we've been doing. And so now what we've done is we've brought it to you, given it to you, and put it in your hands to be able to spread the word and benefit from yourself, but also build yourself a little bit of an online business. Just a kind of sidebar here for a minute. You take this Christmas season that we had, over 60% of all the Christmas shopping that was done online was done through Amazon. That is amazing. That is, and for some businesses, a brick and mortar. That's frightening. That's a terrible thing if you're a brick and mortar business. But we cannot deny the fact that that is the way of our commerce and many, many things. And if you've been watching a company like Amazon, look at the billions of dollars that they're putting into their infrastructure. They have, in the last couple of months, they obtained 9 patents, all relating to the drone delivery system. Why? So they can deliver those products to you in a matter of hours from when you go online and click it from your comfort of your phone or of your computer. So those of you that do not have a computer, those of you that are not watching this on a computer and you're listening to you on your telephone, then I will tell you that we welcome your attendance. But most of the world and most of the Americans are going to the internet. Whether they carry it around in their little phone, on the smartphone, or they're doing it at home. That's where the action is. That's where all the business is heading. So I encourage you to get caught up, take a piece of it. And that's really what 3Believe is here on the business side, is to make you part of that cutting edge technology, be able to have clients anywhere in the world, be able to benefit from the health benefits of what we can provide, but also establish a little bit of business. Which leads me into the next segue. You heard me brag about not too long ago that I was just thrilled of the newest numbers that came out, that the MLM industry, and we're not an MLM company, we're a direct sales, good old-fashioned direct to our consumer type sales, how that industry, less than half of 1% of the participants, they call them distributors most of the time, of those participants make money. The rest lose money. Now, even if you go to Las Vegas and you put a quarter in a slot machine and you pull that one-arm bandit down, you have better odds of winning on that than you do in that scenario. Their ratios, the math, governed by law, will guarantee that you have better odds than making it in the ML industry. And that's sad. It didn't need to be that way. And that's why we structured the business the way it is. I'm not going to go into detail tonight, but of those that are active in our humble little company, 20% made money. That's 50 times better odds. That is amazing. I applaud you for telling your friends and your neighbors and your loved ones, and I'm grateful that we're able to send those checks to you. So good job. Congratulations. Keep it up. Stop being so silent and talk some more. Okay, enough with that part of the business. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk about why the hydrate capsules. I was just looking for a hydrate bottle. I don't have it right handy. Why is electrolytes and sodium so very important? Why in the world do I make such a hubbub about taking your hydrate pills? Is it a cure-all? No, it's not. But back in ancient Roman times, it was such a valuable commodity that many times the Roman soldiers were paid their wage in salt. It is vital. Back then, they used it for so many things: for curing their food, for foods, for preserving their foods, for sustaining life, as an antiseptic, to kill germs and bacteria. So many things. When you go into the hospital, into an emergency room, they put an IV in your arm. What are they giving you? They're giving you sodium. They might also give you a little potassium, also a mineral. It's not as bad, or receiving it and taking it's not as bad as the medical or the news agencies have made it out to be. It's not the master bandit of health. In fact, it has a little bit of a mixed story. And so we're going to go into a little bit of why that is. Why I need you to take more sodium, the hydrate pills, is because you're going to lose the concentration of sodium in your bloodstream is going to decrease, not only your bloodstream, but also in your kidneys, is going to decrease as soon as you start the protocol. In fact, it will stay low as long as you're on the 3Believe protocol. Now, why is that? It's just simple body chemistry. The master hormone that controls your body, there's two of them, is called insulin and glucagon. They're opposites of each other. They're night and day. They're two brothers or two sisters that are on the opposite ends of the table. They don't agree on anything. If one says up, the other one says down. In the case of sodium, insulin tells your kidneys to hold on to it. Don't let it go. Even when they urinate, do not let go of the sodium. Hold on to it. Glucagon, on the other hand, will give the kidneys the exact opposite signal. Now remember, because insulin and glucagon are master hormones, they don't just give commands to the kidneys. They command and rule nearly every single metabolic function that goes on in your body. That's why they call it two master hormones. There is no master above the master. It's just these two. And so they're opposites. Well, when you get on a ketogenic program like ours, what happens is that your insulin levels decrease. Well, your body has to pick up the slack. You can't just go without insulin without anything take its place. And that metabolic commander, if you will, that takes the place of insulin is named glucagon. And so when insulin goes away, when your body is no longer insulin predominant, it will then switch and be glucagon predominant. Now, what is it that controls that change of rulers? It is the amount of glucose in your bloodstream. It's the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating. Thus, the American diet. So earlier I said that the two fastest growing nations in the world for type 2 diabetes is India and Mexico. Why is it? Well, let's take India, for example, and in Mexico as well. Both nations that have consumed rice as a primary staple in their diet for centuries. We're not talking decades, centuries, for millennia of time. It's just part of their diet. So why all of a sudden is the rice and the being such a problem? Because the rice of today is not the rice of yesterday. Meaning, as you become more affluent and wealthy, you have time, and time is a factor, I should say. And so you value your time more, and so you don't buy the same type of rice that you bought when you were less affluent. You get more instant rice. Well, in the process of making the rice instant, what is it? Well, it cooks faster. Why does it cook faster? Because the manufacturer of the rice polished the rice. And what that means is it shaves off that outer core, that sheathing of the rice that provided some very important nutrients. And one of them is two different main types of fiber. And what that did is that slowed down the uptake of glucose into the bloodstream. Your body wasn't able to absorb it as fast. And so now the modern rice, like instant rice, is more of a refined sugar than it is a complex carb, like the rice that you buy that's unpolished. Yes, I can say it is less healthy, and it increases your blood sugar levels more. If you had a diabetic, in fact, it doesn't even have to be a diabetic. You take any person, you have one that takes unpolished rice and one that has instant rice, and they both eat the exact same amount. The one with the polished rice, blood sugar levels would go up higher, and they would stay there higher for a longer period of time. That's not good, right? Pardon me, it's been really, really warm today, and I'm going to excuse myself periodically, and I encourage you to do the same, to take a drink of water. There's the first couple of drinks. And hydration is another part of why sodium concentration in your bloodstream is important. That critical balance of the amount in there is partly regulated by how much water you're drinking. So please, indulge. I'll wait for you. So, back to, now that you learned a little bit about rice, let's go back to the sodium issue, the hydrate. What happens is that we want to make sure that you're getting enough sodium. Your body has to have it. It is essential that it has it. Key factors in your body are regulated by the level and presence of sodium. All right. So let's just go through. I'm going to give you a short list of what's important when you're considering reducing your sodium. Blood pressure. Now, it's going to sound a little bit funny. You've heard that your blood pressure will go up if you have too much salt. That's not the full story. If you're already in an insulin predominant body, let's put that another way. If you're already consuming a high ratio of your calories in your day from carbohydrates, you're in an insulin predominant body. Your body's secreting more insulin than glucagon. Okay? And when that happens, what does it tell your kidneys to do? This is the test. So check, 1 or 2 or A or B. A being, does it hold on to the sodium or does it release it? Well, you're right. It holds on to it. Glucagon is the one that releases it. And so if that happens, your blood volume actually will increase because sodium is a water retentive mineral. It holds on to it. So the reason why the blood pressure goes up is because you have more blood in your body than it needs. And therefore, it makes your heart work harder to pump that blood. Now, you got to remember that your cardiovascular system your vascular system is a closed loop system with a pump right in the middle, and that pump is your heart. And so as it's pumping blood that's now oxygenated, the red blood, to your organs, and as that blood is used up and oxygen is pulled out of it, turns blue and goes back to the heart, and then it gets oxygenated again. Okay. That closed loop system, if there's more blood in it, well, every pressure that it has to push against, it's also pulling. And so it has to pull harder, it has to push harder in this closed loop vacuum. And if you have more blood in it than you need, just like a water balloon on a hot summer day, you fill it up too far beyond the manufacturer's recommendation, it's going to burst in your hands before you get to drop it on your friend. Well, that's why blood pressure goes up primarily. Now, another reason why it can go up is because your arteries are restricted with plaque. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit when we talk about heart disease. But the plaque manufacturing in your body is also caused by, yes, I'll give you a hint. It's either insulin or it's glucagon. You're correct. Every one of you that chose insulin is the reason why we have a buildup of plaque on our arterial wall. So, what you don't hear about so much is that sodium is also a regulator of blood pressure. So if you have a correct ratio of the insulin glucagon switching going on in your body, or not too much blood glucose, then sodium plays the part of regulating your blood pressure. So that's one thing that it's good for. It's absolutely essential for muscle and nerve function. Remember, if you took your body and you only had two categories to put it into, medical science would say that your body is an electrical switchboard and is a chemical factory. Talking about this electrical switchboard, that is the signals that your muscles and your nerves respond to one another, back and forth, and with your brain, right? If you do not have enough sodium, that connection, that signaling, that communication back and forth do not do very well at all. And in fact, if you take regular tap water or the water, try this at home. Well, maybe you shouldn't try this at home, unless you're an electrician, okay? Only electricians get to do this. Is if you took tap water and or bottled water and you put it into a bowl. You had a light bulb and you disconnected the two leads going to it, the positive and negative, and you put one lead in the water and then another lead coming out of the water bowl into the socket, and you plug it in. That light bulb would not turn on. Though it's a closed loop, electricity should flow through it. Water is not a good conductor of electricity. I know that you've heard that, because electrocution is happens. You've seen it on movies. It has to be true. Well, it's not the water that is the great conductor. It's the water retentive minerals, primarily sodium, that is the good conductor. And water is a carrying agent for sodium. And so you do this. You slowly start pouring just regular table salt into this bowl of water. You will see this light bulb start to illuminate. A little bit of salt and it'll just barely start to glow. You put more in and so all of a sudden that light bulb has illuminated completely. That is absolutely a perfect example of why we need sodium in our diet. If you don't have enough salt, they call that hyponatremia. And that is where you have too little of it. And that can be, it can be cause muscle cramps and spasms. It can cause a headache, irritability, restlessness, nausea, fatigue, loss of energy. That's why you hear me say, I'm really tired. Well, are you taking your hydrate pills? Seriously, there's no calories in it. Why would I be fatigued and tired because of that? Because sodium's really important in getting closing the mechanism of getting energy, the electrical action that's happening in your mitochondria when energy is created. Yes, that's why. That mixed with water is why you'll be too weak. A more serious form of too little salt will include confusion, even hallucinations, decreased consciousness. You can lose consciousness and even go into a coma. Okay, now this is severe. This doesn't happen every day, but you've heard about sunstroke. That is not because it's too hot. It's because you don't have enough electrolytes or enough hydration. So that's a critical part of regulating your sugar levels. Did I actually just say sugar levels? Oh, sorry. Sodium levels. All right. That was the soapbox talk about why you need more hydrate or more sodium when you get on a ketogenic diet like we have. Now, I received a testimony today. I normally read those right away. I was so excited about salt that how could I possibly miss this? This is from our beloved Emma Smith. I believe she is 93 years young. She is not aging. I got a confirmation from her. She is youthing, not aging, but youthing ever since she got on the protocol. So I'm really excited about this one. I want to say right at the beginning, do not, absolutely, this is being recorded, okay, so I'll have this on tape. Do not tell your friends, your neighbors, or even strangers that our product will cure cancer. Don't do that. That's not what this is about. What you can say is that a ketogenic diet, a ketogenic approach, a ketogenic physiology can have tremendous, tremendous physiological benefits to the human body. That you can say. But do not say that 3Believe can cure cancer. All right? I'm going to say it again at the end, but let me read this testimony. On July 20th, 2017, about 1 year ago, I was diagnosed by a dermatologist as having cancer in a sweat gland on my head. In October of 2016, it was successfully removed by surgery. However, it had spread to a gland on the right side of my neck, and one nodule was removed, but the doctor could not remove the second, more deeper nodule. I had further exams and tests and further consultations, but delayed further treatment. Now, what kind of treatment was she talking about? Probably chemotherapy, maybe some radiation, something along that line. I continue. I had started taking 3Believe products on January 23rd, 2017. Even at 93, I was not ready to have the side of my face and head burned. So burning was one of the techniques to remove the surface of the area, right? I had 4 more nodules appear on my neck and base of my skull. And then she writes in bold capital letters, I love this, as of about 3 days ago, and this was written today, the one on my skull has completely disappeared and 2 are much smaller. She continues, praise the Lord and thank you and for your wellness protocol, and God bless you all, to you and your dedicated staff. Emma Mooresmith, thank you very much, Emma, and I'm so grateful, and I applaud your success in that area. I can only imagine the relief that you have and the more sleep-filled life that you have. Good job, and thank you for the testimony. And please, everyone that heard that, do not tell people that 3Believe will cure cancer. It'll only get us in trouble, and it'll only build up expectations. Now, there are a mountain of research studies. Just let people find out their own. Just say, go to the internet, go to the PubMed, go to medical journals, and have them read the benefits of ketogenic or low insulin, alkaline-based physiology, and its benefit on cancer. Just have them read that. There's enough there where we don't have to say things like that we cure anything. In fact, the only thing I tell people that 3Believe will cure will be hunger. And that's not even permanent, because you're going to have to eat again in 4 or 5 hours. So that's all that you're allowed to say is that it will cure is temporary hunger. Thank you again, Emma. I'm going to go on. I've got some more stuff here to go about or talk about in heart disease. Now, I'm going to read a little bit because you guys, I appreciate your kind comments about my education. I'm a food scientist by training. I specialize in the treatment of metabolic syndrome and formulation or formulations of foods and formulas for that purpose. But I don't know everything. I'm not a research scientist that does work in these areas. So I'm gonna refer to some of these experts, and so I'm gonna read just a little bit. So the question is what benefit does a ketogenic diet? What benefit does lowering your insulin levels have to do with improving the risk of heart disease and cardiovascular issues? All right. And I read, although arterial damage and heart disease can occur in the face of normal or even low blood cholesterol, elevated LDL levels usually hasten its onset. and insulin, by its action on the cholesterol synthesis pathways located within the cells, help to create and sustain excess amounts of LDL in the blood. Now, just a little bit of information. There's actually 7 different types of cholesterols. You usually only hear about HDL and LDL. How you can tell those apart is H for healthy and H for high. You want your readings of HDL to be high. HDL stands for high density lipid protein, right? LDL, on the other hand, stands for low density lipid protein. L for low or L for lousy. You want that number low and too high and it gives you lousy results. Okay, so we're talking about the LDL. So what he just said was, although insulin directly does not cause heart disease, what it's saying is it has a direct correspondence to increasing the levels of LDL. Now let's learn about what LDL does. Insulin also increases the proliferation of smooth muscle cells in the artery and their migration into the area of plaque formation. Okay, what that talk about is when you have plaque on your arterial wall, your body tries to correct it, and it covers that up with what they call a smooth muscle cells. Now, not kind of voluntary muscle you can strengthen, just it covers it up, and in the process of doing that, it closes off the artery. Not a good thing, right? So it continues. Not only does it accelerate the development of plaque in the cholesterol, right, but increases the thickness and rigidity of the arteries as well. We don't want them that way. Once these smooth muscle cells migrate into the developing of fatty streak and plaque growth continues, insulin stimulates the increased synthesis of collagen and other connective tissue that make up a large part of the forming mass. At the same time, insulin enhances cholesterol synthesis within the plaque lesion, the source of its greasy appearance. Then it continues, although insulin itself apparently doesn't play a direct role in the LDL molecule, or the increase of the molecule, making it a target for macrophages. These metabolic changes that go on within the insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia do that. They do increase because of insulin. So what they're basically saying is that insulin in and of itself doesn't do anything to the LDL cell. What happens is it has a corresponding effect on the macrophages that change the metabolic structure of the LDL, and that's critical. That means it's not its original form of LDL anymore. But it also increases insulin resistance. All right, that means the cells don't accept the insulin as well. That's not good. That's why your glucose levels go up. And we've talked about how that's a cause of type 2 diabetes in the past. But it also says that it plays a major role in hyperinsulinemia. Well, if your cells aren't accepting insulin, then you're going to have, as a result, a certain measure of hyperinsulinemia. That means your pancreas says, well, what in the world's going on? I threw down some insulin for the body to take up. The cells aren't accepting it, and I see that glucose levels are still high. So I only have one trick up my sleeve. I'm going to give out more insulin to drive that glucose levels down. And the cells just say, I told you once, I don't want any more insulin. So they become even more insulin resistant. And so the pancreas, when it gets tired of doing this and it's overworked, that is called hyperinsulinemia. All right. It continues. As blood sugar rises, increasing amounts of glucose are irreversibly attached to LDL molecules, altering their structure, like I was talking about earlier, and making them attractive to the macrophages. These free radicals form and attack other healthy LDL molecules, a process enhanced by insulin-resistant environment, rendering them susceptible to the same fate. It continues on another page. This research scientist says, this is a researcher. Studies show that insulin inhibits regression of diet-induced experimental arteriosclerosis, and insulin dependency inhibits development of arterial lesions. Okay, let's put that in other words. In other words, if you want to clean up your coronary arteries, you can't do it in the presence of hyperinsulinemia. If you have plaque buildup in your body, and your doctor says, all right, look, I'm going to have to put a stent in you to reduce the risk of a heart attack or stroke, knock it off. And he says, stop eating so much cholesterol. Well, that's not going to stop it. The cholesterol that's floating around in your body right this second, 90% of it is caused by what we just talked about. Your cells are actually making the cholesterol. Only about 5 to 10% that's floating in your blood is caused by the foods that you're eating. Now let me make sure you understand this clearly, because if you don't listen to this, it's going to sound like it's the same thing. Foods that presently have, when you eat it, has a lot of cholesterol in it. Let's take an egg, for example. It has a lot of cholesterol in an egg. So the amount of eggs that you eat only impacts the level of cholesterol in your blood by 5 to 10%. That's it. So where in the world do you get the rest of it? From what I just explained, this research scientist confirms that two things happen. One, insulin tells your body to make more cholesterol even though you don't need more. You already have levels that are shooting through the roof. So that's one thing that insulin does. The other thing that it does is that it distorts the LDL structure of that cell, that molecule, and has it be a target for these macrophages to come and attack it, and the free radicals then distort it and damage it even more, causing more of this plaque issue that's going on in your body. So, did you catch the difference? By eating high cholesterol foods, or both foods, but the food of bread, for example, doesn't have any cholesterol in it per se. It's not the food of the bread that's causing high cholesterol in the body. It's the chemical response, the cascading event that happens when it hits your body, and then it creates insulin, and then it tells your cells to make more cholesterol. That's much different than eating a food that just has a lot of cholesterol in it, like an egg. Make the difference? This is huge. Medical science has known this forever, but unfortunately most of our doctors in medical school, it's not their fault, weren't taught about dietary impact, right? They were taught about preventing death by medication and by surgery. They treat it after it's already happened. They don't, their practice or their education was not housed in how to stop it from happening in the first place. It's getting better. They're adapting. So that's a great thing. And all those medical professionals that have already done that, high five, and I applaud your efforts. It's a bold move, and I congratulate you. So, does then our ketogenic approach to health affect heart disease and stroke and heart attacks? Absolutely. You just read clinical science there that talked about it. The hardening of arteries occur through these plaques and through insulin levels being too high. And so if you're on this program, you're only going to distance yourself from those events. Now, it even started out by saying heart attack is, they've proven that it does not have a direct correlation to high cholesterol levels. Now, remember when I said that there are 7 different types of cholesterol? Mainly you hear about the HDL and the LDL. Science is coming out and saying it doesn't matter if you have high cholesterol. Have 300, 400, big deal. The true effect of what's going on in your body is how high is the HDL of your total cholesterol. And if you take that number and divide it, the HDL, and divide it into your total cholesterol number, what they're telling you is that it's not the size of the number, it's the number of the buses, so to speak. Meaning it's the number of the HDLs that occupy that total number of the cholesterol. If you have a high enough number and that number is below 4.0, so, or it divides into the total number, so let's just do easy math. Let's say your cholesterol levels are at 200 and your HDL is at 50. Divide 50 into 200 and it is 4.0. Great. That's good. You're not going to have any challenges with cardiovascular issues. I guess I shouldn't. There's a possibility of some weird thing happening, but that's great. That's a good level. Just don't go over 4.0. Would 3.5 be better? Yes. There's two ways to get that number. You can lower your total cholesterol and simultaneously increase your HDL. That lowers the ratio. You see, HDLs do a special function. They shuffle the unprocessed or those free radicals of the cholesterols that can build up plaque on your arterial wall. It shuffles them back to the liver to be reprocessed. Gives the liver another try. Let me put it this way. Let's say that in your town, no matter where you're at, big city or small, you probably have more than one day a week that they empty garbage in one truck that they empty garbage with. Well, let's just take the case of Salt Lake City. They have hundreds, if not thousands of trucks that are buzzing around every single day of the week. Well, let's say they had one truck to cover all of it. Well, what would likely happen? That would mean that the garbage that's sitting out front of that house would likely pile up. Now, in this scenario, the garbage truck is the HDL molecule, and the garbage outside your house is the amount of other cholesterols that are not processed completely by your liver. Hint, why isn't your liver processing all of the fats like it's supposed to be? Because it has fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and we've talked about that. It can't do it because it's sluggish, and some of the pathways in that liver are not flowing, not giving the liver the chance to break those down and process them for energy. Okay, so they slip through. So what happens is it piles up because the truck can't get around and pick it all up. Well, there's just a special mechanism, a relationship that happens. Then an HDL will shuffle these unprocessed. You increase the levels of HDL, it'll pick up that unprocessed plaque on your arterial wall and send it back to your liver. And that's a great thing. That's how you can control the levels and even reduce the plaque buildup on your arterial wall. That's why a ketogenic approach, a ketogenic diet, a keto diet, a low-carb diet, low insulin producing, a high omega fat diet can greatly reduce, if not eliminate, your chances of cardiovascular event, things like heart attack and stroke. So, hopefully that clears up some of the misconceptions. We covered salt, we covered heart disease, we covered the political unrest that we have going on in our government. Oh, we didn't do that yet. Maybe we'll leave that for another time. Let's go on about something else. I have a couple of notes that I've received through email. Here's the question. Why can we not eat 2 rolls of the smart food a day, or to stay under our 20 carbs? Or, for example, why can't I eat 2 pizzas in a day and that will still keep me under my 20 carbs? Okay. It's not a matter, I don't want you to get in the habit of counting calories. It's not the purpose. There's 2 elements of why I don't want you to do that on a regular basis. One is the fact that you're not being intuitive. Remember, physiologically, that's one part of the protocol. Forcing your body into a certain state and you'll get a certain response. Just kind of like, you know what, you go to work, and you put in your 8 hours, you're going to get a certain response. You're going to get paid at the end of the pay period. Well, same happens if you put your body in a low insulin producing diet. Certain chemical things happen. But what about the intuitive eating? I want you to have a healthy relationship to food. We all have some inappropriate relationship to food. And you know what I mean. Things like we eat when we're not hungry. We eat because our friend said you got to try this. It's absolutely delicious. Or you go over to Aunt Karen's house. She makes the best upside down pineapple cake in the world. You just had dinner. You're not really full, or you're on a diet, or you're type 2 diabetic, or the list goes on. You have a stomach ache, but she has the best. You don't want to hurt her feelings, and it does taste good, so you have some anyway. That's not a reason to have this yummy cake. Those are examples of an inappropriate relationship to food. So it's not a question of can you, by the numbers, eat 2 pizzas in a day or 2 rolls a day. Or I had one person say, your muffins and chips, let me quote here, it was a little harder to limit the carbs. The chips and the muffins are addictive. 3 exclamation points after that one. But I'm doing better of lowering and controlling my carbs. Well, we make them good on purpose. We make the muffins and the chips and our other foods good on purpose so that you are willingly able to make an exchange from a naughty muffin to a smart muffin like ours, right? So you don't have to give up the taste, pleasure, and benefit. But that doesn't mean that you're just supposed you can just eat them with impunity, right? There's going to be a net effect, right, in your body. And so 2 reasons. Don't eat them just because you can. The numbers add up. I want you to eat them because your body asks for it, because your body will respond to it. That's where the intuitive lessons come in. That's where you got to be listening to what your body is telling you. And it's much easier to listen to your body when it's no longer connected to and addicted to all the chemicals, all the preservatives that are invading your body from eating all the foods that you have been eating. Having great willpower is one thing, but I have people by the thousands tell me, I don't know what it is, but my willpower on this diet is higher than it's ever been before. Well, it's not that your willpower is greater, it's that devil sitting on your shoulder telling you to eat it is gone, and that devil's source is simply the chemical dependency that you had on those food because of the ingredients that they put in there. One of them mainly being sugar. Okay, so last one is the brochures, the handouts. They will be ready to ship tomorrow. So if you haven't put in your order, remember they come in a pack of 25. I think we said they're at $7.50. We negotiated a great price. One of the guys said that he went down to a printer to get them done because we have it in electronic format, right? And they wanted like $1.50 a piece. Holy cow! How much would that be? We took $1.50 times 25. That'd be $37.50. Well, we got it for $7.50. So hallelujah, good job. And so put in your orders. We'll ship those off starting Friday and Monday, and then spread the word. I think I went through my list. Let me turn on the speaker. Merv, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but
Oh, good. I didn't lose you then. I didn't put you all to sleep.
you might talk about the seeds call too tonight.
Oh, okay. Now, is that going to be at 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time?
Yeah, right or something.
Okay, so all right, let me talk about that. So on Tuesday night, this is a program that's going to be hosted by Merv, but he invited me to come on periodically, and I'll be there for part of it. We're going to talk about that's going to be that part, or that call is going to be about the business building. How in the world can I take advantage of this internet thing? And how in the world can I get this word out? I tell you, it is so much easier now than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, even 2 years ago. And so one thing that we're going to talk about is a principle and a concept that I coined: seed selling. All it is really is a philosophy. of how to talk to people about things that are difficult, or challenging, or potentially difficult. Now, where it came from, let me tell you how this developed. When we started going into doctors' offices, and we told the doctor, and he said, "This is our program. Let me show you all the science." And they were impressed. And they said, "Oh, this is great. This is just what I was looking for. You bet. Sign me up." And then they said, "Okay, now how do we actually get started? How are we going to tell the patients about it? Because I'm not going to be the one to do it. I'm too busy going in and practicing medicine. I don't have time. I only have about 25 seconds per patient. That's an exaggeration, but literally only minutes per patient, and I don't have time to give them a sales pitch. So what are you going to do to help me with that?" Well, that created a bit of a challenge, because the people that are in a doctor's office are people that are not trained, nor do they want to be salespeople. That's the last thing that they want. They don't like it when the pharmaceutical representatives come into the office, or sales reps for medical equipment. They shun them like the plague. And the last thing that they want to do is be a salesman. They don't want to be one of them. So we had to come up with a program. And so we came up with this program, an actual method that I've used for years and years in my own practice. And so I coined it seed selling. And really all it is a series of asking questions. None of us like to be sold, but all of us like to buy. Isn't that true? We like to buy, we just don't like being sold. And so we were able to take these women that were 55 years old and been in the doctor's office for 35 years, haven't sold anything, and they were master salespeople, nurses and PAs and just office people. And that's where I'll tell you a little bit of tidbit information. When we move into a clinic, on average, it only takes about 6 months of them integrating our program into theirs. And after 6 months, and of course using some of our methods, the revenue they're making off of their practice versus the revenue they're making off of our ketogenic wellness program is dwarfed. Our program is making more profit, more revenue for them than what they were making before. I know. It just goes to show you the amazing power and how well receptive, or how well it's received by the public. And so that's going to be how it will be received by the people you talk to. So the seed selling will just be giving you some hints. Now, we'll have it in 2 phases. We're not going to all do it on Tuesday night. We're just going to kind of intro it. I'm doing training videos for it. We're going to have 2 versions. We're going to have the PhD version, where you can go in and it'll take several hours to get really into it. And then we're going to have the elementary version, where you just listen to about 35-40 minutes of the concept and how to do it. And I'll tell you what, it is very effective even at the elementary level. I'll also tell you that seed selling will help you in every aspect of your life, not only in building your 3B business. It will help you in your relationships with your spouse or loved one, with your children, with your employer or employees, with your neighbors, with people in your church, synagogue, your mosque, just your friends. You follow those principles, and it will help in every single time that you communicate with another human being. It is that powerful, and it is that universal. And so that's why I encourage you to at least give it a try, for heaven's sakes. If I can boast of those kind of numbers and benefits, it's worth at least learning a little bit about it. So join us on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. I know Murphy got some other things planned. I don't know what they are. He's a mastermind of getting these things together. I'll just talk a little bit about seed selling, and so we encourage you to come by there. Merv, anything else?
I don't think so. Good call.
All right, let's do our 3 questions for the night. Does anybody have a question, or if you have an experience or a testimony that you'd like to express, please do so. First one. Oh, come on now, don't be shy. Merv, I'm guessing that we don't have anyone that has any questions.
Yeah, Jason
Yeah, I
stepped
can
on.
I got a question. Yeah, this is John from Minnesota. I was talking with Murr today, and he was telling me on the directions on the MCR package that actually needs to be changed a little bit. Instead of just one of those shakes a day, if you've got like diabetes conditions, to do 2 or 3 meals a day. Is that about right then?
Yeah, what he's talking about, and what I was hoping to get all of the. I'm looking here. If you're on the webinar, you'll see that I'm looking here off to the distance that you don't see, but I have all of our sheets here posted on the website today. There was a little bit of a snafu. It should go up tomorrow or Monday. But when you get there, if you're a diabetic, look for the one that is purple. All the others will be our teal color or our blue color, but the one that's in purple, the 3Believe food outline, or it's called the phase alternative. All the others are called phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, but for diabetics, it's called phase alternative. And it outlines what it is that we're trying to accomplish for a diabetic. Now, this one is mainly for type 1, but type 2s can use it. You just kind of follow some of the outlines in there to determine which, if you qualify for it. But the basic principle is this, is that you eat the same amount of food a day as far as total caloric value. But you're not having it every 4.5 to 5 hours. You're having it every 2 to 2.5 hours. You see, what happens is that uh, your glucose levels will rise and fall at a greater apex that over 4 or 5 hours than they will in a shorter period of time, like 2 hours. So they won't go up and down as much. And what it does is it accelerates the sensitivity of insulin to your cells. It just speeds up the process of being more effective and increases the energy level, and so that is the program. Again, if you don't want to wait till Monday, go in to support 3believe.com, email Malo, and she will personally send that document right to your email, and you can print it off and have it. You don't have to wait. And that will talk more about the diabetic portion. Any other questions? Now, when I came on tonight, I heard a guy kind of just came into the tail end of someone talking about some weight loss and then also blood pressure medication. Is that gentleman still on?
That was Bob Price.
Oh, Bob, you want to tell your story?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have it all in front of me. I just got my memory if I can do anything with it. But the biggest thing for me right at this point, and I tried to look at what it shows me, and I had to add it up, is it looks like 63 pounds lost over the time I've been on, which is from I go 238 down to 175 at this point, and my blood pressure pills, as well as the various other ones. I had acid reflux, as well as cholesterol at the time. I do not take any of those, have no problems with any of it. Actually, the cardiologist was upset that I was eating pickles, and I said, well, how does it seem to be affecting me now by my test that you ran? He said, well, go ahead and eat the pickles as long as you're doing what you're doing. So actually, everything's working out real well for me right now. My goal is still 164. Hopefully that I can still stay on it. But I've been through the program now. I think I'm on the 14th week at this point, and I want to stay on it until I get to the 164. And then I'm hoping. Now that's a question too, Jason. I don't know if I should. I'm at P6 right now. And I wanted to, and I haven't lost any muscle, but I went from 48 fat to 21 fat, which is, I think, beautiful.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, my water went from roughly about 38 up to now 58.7. So
Now that's
it's
good
like
for everyone
I
listening. What he's talking about in that measurement is the amount of hydration in the body at 38% versus, was it 58? Is that what you said, Bob?
yes, yes,
And most Americans are dehydrated, and that really slows down so many bodily functions that I kind of talked about earlier. The liver needs that water, and so that's a great thing. That's not a retaining water per se. That's tissue hydration. So sorry to interrupt, Bob. Go ahead.
That's great. I know I still have my goals in front of me, but what my question was that what I wanted to do once I reached the goal of 164, what I wanted to do, because I'm 70 years old, and what I wanted to do is actually, I love to work out. I know that you do with P6, but I think you take more oils than probably what I can afford. But I was thinking about going with the P22 and then work out mildly. I'm talking about my 3 miles a day and walking and just work out lightly with weights. I don't want to bulk up to be Mr. He-Man. I just want to retain, and I have fairly good muscles even for my age, but I wanted to just to, at least they tauten it up a little bit because my skin has gotten a little bit looser.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a brief second. Congratulations, Bob. By the way, that's good for you. I'm so proud of you. That's got to be a blessing. The natural idea is because we hear about it all the time. To build muscle, you need protein, and it's not that that's not true. That's absolutely true. What you actually, but a more precise way of answering that statement is to build muscle tissue. One of the components you need is more bioavailable and metabolized amino acids, and that is protein, but it has to be absorbed. So taking more of it doesn't mean that we're going to get in. It's kind of like uh, you want a bigger glass of water, and all you have is just a great big sieve. It's bigger than the glass, but it's got holes in it. Well, you're kind of defeating the purpose. And so eating more protein doesn't doesn't ensure that your cells are actually going to get that protein. And so the identifier, if you will, of what makes that difference is the digestive enzyme mix. Protein in and of itself just is not enough. You need to have the digestive enzymes available to break those things down so your body can metabolize it. And so when I'm working out, if I'm not trying to build a lot, I'll be on Pro 3. If I want to build a little bit, then I'll go to the Pro 6. If I'm trying to repair muscle tissue, like if I have surgery or I tore a muscle, something like that, then I'll go to Pro 22. So if you're on Pro 6 now, I wouldn't automatically go to the 22 because that I believe that would be much more than you actually need. And then what would happen is that you would plateau in your desired weight loss, because if there's more amino acids, well, those calories have to go somewhere. They're going to float around, and they'll be after a period of time they'll be stored as body fat, and that'll plateau your loss. Plus, it's giving extra stress on your liver and the kidneys, putting out more nitrogen and ammonia. And so I would stay at least on the Pro 6, and even consider, if you haven't had the Pro 3, try the Pro 3. It's a great methodology as a plateau breaker if you've noticed that it's stopped. And then if you notice that your energy goes down, just increase your oil a little bit. And so that would be what I would recommend as a start.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason.
You betcha. I think that's all the questions. It's after 8 o'clock. I apologize. We have this on recording, so if you'll be sent out, all those that request the audio and the video version, if you like. I appreciate you. I am honored to be part of deliver some of the information, and I God bless all of you. And until we meet again, um, take your shakes. Take your 3Believe. Okay.
We will. Good call. Good call. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night,
God bless you.
God bless. Good night, Dave.
Yeah. Good night. God bless you. Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Darlene.